All right, we are back. We'll just give folks a chance to catch up with us. Sorry about that. If you're listening to us right now, we just had a little technical issue, had to restart the stream. It happens, but let's go back to the phones and let's talk to Cameron. Cameron's here from Fort Wayne. Hello, Cameron.
Hello?
Hello? Mac, I can't hear you again.
Hey, that was
Don't
me
do
that
that.
time.
What are you doing?
That was me that time.
What are you doing?
Just playing with you. But I want to hear what Cameron has to say, more importantly than what I have to say. What's up, Cameron? I don't know if Cameron hears us.
Cameron. Hello, Cameron.
Hello.
Hello.
Cameron.
How we doing? How are you? Can
Better
you hear
now.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Hearing you has not been the problem. All right. What do you got for us?
So, just want to say thanks for letting me on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Been listening since 2017.
Wow.
First time calling. This is pretty awesome.
Great.
So I just wanted to get your thoughts on Hemlock and his version of what I like to think is his version of the Bad Batch. I think these guys, these mysterious clones that were random, they all had either some sort of armor or beefiness to them that represented each one of the members of the Bad Batch. And I think the one we saw, we saw one in the original, the first part of the season, the one that was tracking Hunter and them down. He had a lot of aspects of Hunter, or of Crosshair. He had the antenna, the sniper, abilities. He shot a moving gunship out of the sky.
Yeah.
And then Wrecker battling the bigger version of these guys. I was kind of hoping when we had this final battle with them that, Hemlock was all about perfection. And I was hoping we were going to see a helmet fall off and see Hunter, or the one that when Hunter speared it, we're going to see, a Crosshair variant or something. There's even one that had like the tech goggles. It had he had circular yellow.
So are you saying they were like the Bizarro Bad Batch?
No.
That's what I was kind of thinking is what they were going with it. And I think maybe it's something that they left, Dave Filoni being Dave, left it open to the imagination. I think there's a lot of hype behind one of these being tech or, something into that effect that we're going to get this whole oh my gosh, tech's alive. But I really like how Dave and them kept it clean.
Well, maybe, you know what?
If somebody dies in the series, they pass.
Cameron, maybe if they weren't so obsessed with keeping everything in the dark, we would be able to see some of these details you're talking about. I'm going to go back and rewatch just because of this, because I'm very intrigued.
Yeah. It's right in the fight scene when Omega's coming in and she's unlocking Hunter and all the guys, and she gets Wrecker free. The big guy at the top, he's the biggest of them with the spear, and I think he represented Wrecker. And the other two, which was like a tech with the goggle-looking eyes, and then Hunter, or the Crosshair version, was the one that Hunter speared. That was earlier this season.
Wow! I wanted to bring that up. I'm glad you did. Yeah, the spearing of that dude. We were talking about Hunter used to kind of play around with that knife in the early episodes, and we haven't seen Brutal Hunter, but we definitely saw Brutal Hunter with this episode, and throwing that spear and impaling the guy and attaching him to the wall. I think I got a shot of that. That was pretty intense.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I do have one question though.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think? So at the beginning of this season, Palpatine shows up, the big bad. He's walking with Hemlock. He takes him in the vault, and they show Palpatine, the coffins, you could call them, that I for sure thought were going to be clones of Palpatine or some sort of Force user. And when Hemlock at this episode opened those coffins, I wasn't expecting these other like special ops clones. I was expecting something a little crazy, like, okay, Hemlock's like reached his last end. He's not letting Tarkin come here. He's going to take care of this now because he's about to lose everything. And it was just weird that instead of it being anything that dealt with Necromancer, what do you guys think those guys had to do with Necromancer? Because
the Clone X
the only
guys?
time we saw Palpatine talk about Necromancer. Yeah, because they came out of the same coffins that Palpatine stood in front of in the earlier episodes of the season when they talked about Necromancer and they dropped Project Necromancer.
Right. Well, I thought the mystery was solved. The canisters in the vault contained the CX clones. It just didn't really necessarily, this might be a spin-off of Project Necromancer, or just, a happy accident for Hemlock as he's conducting experiments on these clone troopers, trying to infuse their blood with midi-chlorian-rich blood. He might have devised some way to create these super troopers, and maybe only certain clone troopers were eligible to become CX troopers, just the troopers, the clone troopers who could withstand the conditioning that Hemlock puts them through to make them into CX troopers. And it appears they have to go through a significant period of being in a status of some sort, in those canisters until they're ready to be hatched and unleashed. I think that's what he was showing Palpatine, right?
Yeah, and I think he was flexing to Palpatine by saying, "Look at the lengths I'm going to protect this, the security."
Yes,
I think this was really an example of the security more than anything. But I can definitely see why you might think it was something deeper than that. But we know that the first thing he does is he wipes the memory and scrambles the brains of these clones, and then I think they go into those coffins or whatever until they're ready for ready to be activated, we'll say. And he usually activates them one at a time, but he knew that he was very desperate, so he activated them all at once.
Yeah, and the gang of them all together gave me Knights of Ren vibes.
Oh, for sure, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I saw others in the chat mentioning that as well. The big difference between them and the Knights of Ren is that these guys actually did more than just strike a pose. They were actually involved in some really great action sequences.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
The fight choreography within the animation of this episode was really outstanding. And for that alone, it deserves multiple viewings because some of the action happens so fast and furious, it's difficult to take it all in at once.
Yeah, R.I.P. Scorch, too, by the way.
Yes. R.I.P. Scorch, Nalase, and Rampart.
Hemlock.
Yeah, that's our roll call for this final episode.
So
4 big deaths.
Did we ever see what happened to the rest of Scorch's squad? Because I thought we had saw Fixer at one point, but we never saw Boss, and we never saw what was the sniper's name with the red? I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
Snipey.
I think that's it. Red Snipe.
Snipey.
If they did live to fight another day, they left with Tarkin and are going to be serving Project Stardust. I think if they survived. But Cameron, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Great call. Good questions. Let's take a couple of more here. How about everybody on? Look at this. It's a full roster of Patreon members. Well, let's talk to the other Blake. Let's talk to Blake from Florida. Hello, Blake. Thanks for waiting.
Hey, Chut. What's going on, guys?
Bad Batch, series finale, that kind of thing.
Yeah, man. Normally I can't make it on Wednesdays, but I was able to do it tonight. And, man, what a great week because I really enjoyed this series finale. But so there were two things I wanted to bring up to you guys. One was my prediction for the next animated series, and then a little. I want to hear a discussion between you two of just Star Wars animation in general, because I really think they're knocking it out of the park. So first, I think the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron thing is not happening. I know you guys covered that a couple weeks ago, how she still owes Lucasfilm a draft, but I think that's going to go the way of the Rian Johnson trilogy and the rumors I hear every week that Kathleen Kennedy's getting fired. Like, that's not just like see something. I don't think it's going to happen.
Kathleen Kennedy is the most fired person I think ever to exist. She's been quote unquote fired more times than. Oh yeah,
I know. If only, but I know Lucasfilm. I think how knuckleheads working there, but I do know there was a lot of positive reception behind that announcement, and we've been craving for a while of just a original trilogy show in animation. So I think Omega is going to go and pilot with the Rebellion during the original trilogy era, and I think that'd be a really good place if that film doesn't happen to tell it in a series of animation. And Omega's a character who we've literally seen grow up, who I did not like at all up until like this latest season. And by the time she was a grown lady, I was like, okay, I'd be totally down to watch her in a series. So I could be eating crow on that. It may never happen, but I would like to see that happen.
I'll tell you what, Blake, since you're putting your cards on the table, I'll put some of mine on the table. I think a Rogue Squadron. I think a Rogue Squadron film will be just an absolute total waste of time. I think a Rogue Squadron series. I think a Rogue Squadron. I'll tell you why. Because if you're going to do some sort of military band of brothers type thing, I want to spend time with these characters. I want to develop a relationship with them. I want to care about them, and I think that requires. It doesn't have to be animated, but I think that it fits a series better than it does, a standalone 2-hour film. So that's why I mean it's a waste of time. Because I don't think they're going to be able to dig very deep, and they're not going to be able to pull off another Rogue One. I think that was lightning in a bottle. They had the right story, they had the right people at the right time. Tony Gilroy, all of that. I don't see that happening with a Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron film. I love the idea of a Clone Wars style, or let's just call it Star Wars animation style Rogue Squadron animated series. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And then you could add in like all those, like you could have a young Wedge Antilles and all those original trilogy guys that, even me. I mean, I'm 34. I'll be 35 this year. Even I know, reading in the expanding universe in the 90s and stuff like that'd just be so cool to see. But that kind of leads into my second part, based on animation. But I do want to say overall, I did love the episode. I was talking with Eric from Phoenix on Patreon last week. I was like, I'm a little unsure about this coming into it. I don't know if we can nail it. And I would give the episode a 7.5 out of 10. I really, really liked it. But like I was watching it this morning, I'm just like, there's just something missing. I'm really enjoying this, but there's just something missing. And I couldn't nail it. But then it just hit me that, the last 3 seasons we've touched on so many, like really some things we could really sink our teeth into, like a clone uprising, which we kind of saw, in the TK's taking over the clones. And then I definitely think they need to do a lot more of dialogue with Crosshair being reintroduced into the Bad Batch. I don't think they did a good enough job with that. So I think if they added a lot more, they filled in a lot more of those things, maybe replace the filler with those kind of things, or just cut the series in half to 8 episodes a season. So it's streamlined a little bit better. It could have had a little bit more gravitas. But that being said, I really, really loved it. I know I'm being critical, but I loved it. So I wanted to ask you guys before I got off was, it seems like Star Wars animation, and you guys have said it on the main show, dude, they're like knocking it out of the park, it seems like, whereas, the live action stuff, I've been very critical of it. I've not been a fan of much since Mando season 2. And I think there's a lot of lessons the live action side could take from the animation. So the last couple of years between, Bad Batch and the last season of Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi, what are some of the things that Star Wars animation is doing that you really think the live action side needs to incorporate into their storytelling so that we can get the same kind of audience reception that we've been getting on, again, the animation side over the live action?
Well, I'll tell you, we're gonna get to another couple of calls here, but thanks, Blake, for the question. We'll answer. For me, what I think that Star Wars animation gets right more times than the live action stuff is tone. I think that Star Wars should have a youthful appeal. I don't think it always needs to be dark and foreboding. I think there needs to be dark times and dark moments, but I don't think that it needs to be, a lot of people are like, oh, let's have a Star Wars movie that's as serious as Dune, these Dune movies or things like that. And I'm like, well, that's Dune. Dune's got its own vibe, its own feel. I don't necessarily need that. I want kids like Blake to get excited about watching Star Wars. And that may not be the case if there's, this clamor to always be so grown up and so adult about it, at least on purpose, if that's your mission or your goal. So I think tone on the animation is key. And honestly, I just think that, and I don't think it has anything to do with animation per se. Maybe it is the amount of time. Maybe cutting it down, because I've said that too. Why don't these shows just cut it down, make it 8 episodes and blah, blah, blah. But we would also be robbed, I think, of a lot of these subtler character moments in this character building, so that when the stuff really does hit the fan, you're totally invested in. So I think taking your time a little bit more with characters, and for God's sake, show the stuff on screen. Don't stop telling me what happened. Show me what's happening.
Yes, that's been a big problem with Star Wars live action, is some of the best stuff happens off screen. Sequel trilogy, Ahsoka series, some of the best stuff happened off screen. I think the thing that I like the best about The Bad Batch, as far as the storytelling goes, is it did provide us with a beginning, a middle, and a solid end. And the time spent with the characters really helped them grow as far as the audience fondness for each of them. So like I said at the beginning of the show, even though we thought we were going through some nonsensical moments with the gang as they were just running random missions for Sid in early episodes, or going out hunting for treasure with Fee, we wanted to get back on the playing field, the major league playing field, and that involves an uprising against the Empire, or at least the story of how the clones are being phased out. And I think the show gave us that in great detail. Even though I've said before, they took the premise and stretched it really thin, it did provide us with all of those moments to develop connections to the character, and for the characters to develop a chemistry amongst themselves, which is very important. And I also feel like the characters in this show, as we've mentioned before, they earned their successes, they earned their defeats. It didn't seem like any shortcuts were being taken as far as the storytelling goes. And we had ample time to let certain situations develop throughout the 3 seasons of the show, which I think resulted in a pretty solid payoff here with The Calvary Has Arrived. I think it's a very solid payoff and a very solid way to close the book on The Bad Batch.
All right, let's see. Who's been waiting the longest? You're going to be the lucky caller here. Let's go with, it's close. We're going to go with Jeremy from Texas. Jeremy, you're on. Thanks so much for waiting. Hello.
Guys, thanks so much for a great show. When you guys started the show, I had just gotten home because my son Lucas, who I talked about on the Q&A, had a surgery today. And I was, as a parent, we had to split duties with the kids, so I had to come home with his sibling. Anyway, so I was looking forward to RFR and everything, but I was an hour behind. And so I just want to give my hot take.
Hoping that everything goes great for your son. Okay, definitely.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a fighter. Thank you. He's a fighter for that. But once again, the RFR crew, is there for people. I just want to tell you real quick my 3 favorite moments about being on hold. As soon as I was listening to the show live, you guys were talking about how how damn dark the show was. And I thought, Jesus, they got halfway to the middle of the show and they're talking about how dark it was. And I started thinking, I think it's more of an artistic, I was laughing out loud. And then, which I think it's more of an artistic complaint. I mean, I like it versus a technical complaint. The second thing about being on hold that was awesome was, how about, can we hold a candle for that compliment from Steven Stanton? Was that a moment or what?
Yeah, that was so
something. Sincere, to the.
Well, we go back a long
way.
We go back with Steven a long way, and a lot of the voice actors from Star Wars animation. So no, it's certainly great to hear. That's for sure.
I really felt that. And then my third favorite moment about being on hold, and this is the best, when you started having technical problems and you went dark. And it was being on hold. It was like super eerie because you're like, hold the line, stay on the line, So it's like, it's just darkness and quiet for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden I hear Jason go, "Hello." Hello? And for a second I thought he was talking to me because it was so intimate and weird. He was like, "Hello." I go, "Hello." And then I realized that he can't hear me, but I wonder if I'm on the air. So then I was like, open the pod bay doors, Swink. So I don't know. It made me laugh. It just made me laugh so hard. Anyway, I'll wrap it up. My hot take on the show was that it was absolutely amazing. I felt like every single scene I was seeing some kind of a inspiration from Frankenstein, with all the lightning and the guys being zapped in the head, and then the beautiful bridge scene with the rain was like an affair to remember. And then, can we give it up for the Zillow Beast? Like, it wasn't annoying. That was an awesome.
Let's give it up to the Zillow.
I loved it, and it reminded me of Jules. Yeah, it was like Jules Verne. And it led to a really cool moment where I forget which one of the Badgers was looking through the gaping hole that the Zillow Beast left. And he just looks at it and goes, "Yeah, looks like Omega's been through here."
Yeah, right.
It was great. Not even the Zillow Beast.
Yeah. Echo says that was the thing that he would have done, right? Echo says, I'd have done that. I'd have let the Zillow Beast go.
Yeah, it was a great moment too out in the jungle with Crosshair and the guys, and they see the Zillow Beast emerge, and Crosshair says something along the lines, "Who's responsible for this, Omega or Echo?" And Wrecker and Hunter at the same time both say Omega. It's like, absolutely. Those are those little character moments that mean so much.
Well, the writing was so good, and some of it reminded me of some of those old movies from when I was a kid, all the Vietnam vet movies like Deliverance and Uncommon Valor and Deer Hunter and Let's Get Hairy. And there were so many of them when I was a kid, and it kind of reminded me of that. It was just great. It was perfect. It was freaking perfect. And who saw the episode coming? I think you're full of beans if you saw that epilogue coming. Maybe everybody did, and I'm the idiot, but I just couldn't believe it. It was unreal.
Yeah.
So to wrap and not hog up all the time, I do think that show, for my personal taste, is one of the greatest series finales ever, right up there with Miami Vice and Mad Men and MASH and 6 Feet Under. I don't know, man. It was incredible. It was great. I'm out of my mind. It was so good.
All right, man. That's good. No, I'm glad you found so much enjoyment, especially when you got some stuff your family's going through. So prayers, thoughts, all of that for you, Jeremy, and the whole family. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. My goodness. Wow. Tyler Page, we got to bring Tyler on because Tyler is just always there. I don't think he's missed one of these since he became the official call screener and program observer. Tyler's got the perfect attendance award. So, Tyler, thanks so much for being here. I don't even have music playing underneath you because we want to be able to hear you since you're certainly one of the I think the favorites. I think you might actually poll more popular than me or Mac sometimes on this show. And no matter, we tick people off and then people are like, "Oh, I love Tyler. Oh, here comes Tyler and his beard." I always agree with Tyler. So anyway, wanted to say thank you and see if you had anything you wanted to add about the series finale, this 3-year adventure that we've all been on together, the mission.
Yeah, 3 years. It's wild how quick that went by. I think when I first watched this finale, I had some mixed feelings. I'm like, oh man, I was trying to think about all the loose ends and stuff and how much they wrapped up, and they really did. Especially talking with everyone tonight, it really reaffirmed how much they wrapped up. And the things that I'm thinking about are consistent questions throughout all of Star Wars. Like, what is the Empire doing with the Zillo Beast? I still don't know, but I don't know if I'll ever know. And just a super, super emotional episode. And I really like that she created that diversion with the Zillo Beast, very similar to how Ahsoka frees Darth Maul in the series finale of the Clone Wars. There's just a lot of parallels, and I'm really curious to see adult Omega, and if I think young Omega was a little naive at times, so I don't know if adult Omega she's got to change, but she's also, what's happened in between? Have they just been vacationing for like 10 years?
They've been on Pabu. On Pabu.
She probably went to school and, maybe a university or something. University of Pabu,
Yeah.
Pabu you.
Yeah. I'm just so curious.
Yeah,
There's so much more to tell.
The naivete, it's I go back and forth because there does seem to be a naivete, but there's also something really special about people who always see the best in others. And yes, that can be a form of naivete, but it can also be a real strength, because sometimes there are some people that are able to see such good and such potential in other people that they're able to see it in themselves. And that can be a life-changing moment for people. So I go back and forth on it. I think that our caller we had on Monday's episode talking about her superpower being empathy. I think that sort of, I think, explained, at least for me, in my own headcanon, I think that is a big part of what makes her special and what makes her unique. So anyway, well, Tyler, thanks again, bud. Appreciate it.
Thanks as always. I'll see you for Acolyte.
Yeah. It's not going to be that long, I tell you that. We'll be back in these parts, doing these after shows. I don't think we'll be doing 15 episodes of Acolyte. I think we'll be doing more like 8. We'll be doing 8 of them. 7? Is that a done deal?
Well, the series premiere is a 2-parter. So we'll knock out 2 episodes on that first after show. So that'll be hitting the first week of June.
Right.
The Acolyte after show. The AAS.
We've been called worse. All right. Well, thanks, Tyler. We'll see you in Bristol in just a couple of days.
This Saturday.
See you in person. Yeah, this Saturday. Thanks for everything, man. So now it is time, of course, for final thoughts, not just on this episode, but not just on this season, but the whole series. Jimmy Mack, final thoughts, Bad Batch series finale.
Series finale, final thoughts on the Calvary is coming.
Has arrived. Cavalry has arrived.
The is coming? The Calvary has arrived. Oh, man. Boy, they arrived all right. And it was great that Steven Stan arrived on our show again for the finale, the series finale. And Steven reveals he's done over 70 Star Wars character voices in his career in the galaxy from a long time ago, far, far away. And I was just wondering, how many individual voices did he do in a single episode of a Star Wars production? What's his record for that? Now, we know D. Baker does most of the voices in The Bad Batch, but how many voices has Steven Stan? So I see he's poking around in the chat still, so maybe he can answer that. How many voices has he done for different characters in a single episode of a Star Wars production? things happening in this episode. I thought, again, Wrecker throughout the whole episode, I felt was skating on thin ice. He gets his butt whooped constantly, takes a licking and keeps on ticking. But when that CX trooper stuck Wrecker in the chest with that vibro blade, I was like, oh, this is the end for sure. But no, he emerged. He was ready to rock. It was great to see Emery show her true colors and fight the fight for good versus evil. And when she gave Omega her iPad, I thought, wow, that's interesting. She's given a kid an iPad without that rubbery, cushioned, colorful case you see most kids have on their iPads, to protect it. So maybe I was the only one looking for that, but I see that all the time. You ever see that? The kids, they have the iPads and they got those big cushiony.
Yeah, Parker had one. He just got it to a big boy case this year. He's hard on things. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Most kids are. But not Omega. You can trust her with your iPad. She'll take good care of it. Did you notice Wrecker's hand was twitching when he was strapped to a table there, being poked and prodded by Hemlock and his gang? So that hand twitching thing is a PTSD reaction, physical manifestation of the horrors of being experimented on in Mount Tantus. We talked so much throughout this series about the usage of stun blasts. They're always stunning. And, sometimes when you're on the battlefield, I think you're looking for a little finality to the fight, and you want to shoot to kill. But in the Bad Batch, they constantly have used stun bolts, and it was something that was kind of confusing at first. But it really comes full circle with some comments made by Hemlock after Omega attempted to stun the CX trooper that was hanging out there in the laboratory. The stun bolts did nothing to affect the CX trooper. They must have super armor that soaks it up, or the trooper himself is impervious to stun bolts. And Hemlock says a glaring weakness of the clones is their loyalty to one another. Thanks for proving my point. And he said that after Omega tried stunning the CX trooper. So I just was glad that stun bolt thing was finally addressed in the final episode, and it reveals a certain weakness that the clones have, their compassion for each other. Stephen Stanton in the chat reveals that he believes in one episode he portrayed 6 different characters.
8.
Oh, it says 8. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm still kind of, blurry-eyed from the last moments of Hunter and Omega together, father saying goodbye to daughter as she goes off to college or the armed forces or whatever. So I'm still a little blurry-eyed, I guess, from that. I'm not crying, you're crying. I thought it was funny at the end that the clones were celebrating with sushi on Pabu. I bet they have great sushi on Pabu. I thought it was nice to know that the kids would be reunited with their families. They addressed that in the very final moments on Pabu. Echo revealed he was heading to Pantora, where Senator Ryu Chuchi is there trying to fight for clone trooper rights, and he takes Emery with him. Do I sense a little love connection going on here between Echo and Emery? E and E.
I call them Eckery.
Eckery. Is it weird between
That's
two
my ship
clones?
name.
Is it weird between two clones? That's what I want to know. Is that considered weird?
Now you just ruined it.
Well, I mean, these are things we have to address.
You're the one that made it weird.
Hey, I'm not the one giving them shipping names or whatever you're doing over there. What are they called again? Eckery?
I call him Eckery. Look at him. Look at this. Look at those 2 lovebirds.
Come on. Don't you see it?
That
Love.
hand on the shoulder. Love
Exciting
is in the air
and new.
everywhere I look around.
Between two clones, is it good for you? Okay. Enough. Hunter says they can be whatever they want now that they're finally free. So if a couple of clones want to get together and start banging boots, then good for them. No Darth Vader. I'm a little surprised, but save the Dark Lord for some really important moments, I guess. I thought we would see the debut of TIE fighters in this series. They were still flying around in those prequel era V-Wing fighters. We didn't get the TIE fighters, but we did get the debut of the Imperial class Star Destroyer. Unless we're forgetting another instance when we may have seen them being introduced on screen, but I don't think so. I mean, I think this is the debut of the Star Destroyer. Series wraps up, no Bad Batch members perish. And I was expecting it. And I thought that would have raised the stakes. But in the end, my emotion is that of relief. I'm glad none of the Bad Batch perished. It was hard enough losing Tech when he died, and I didn't want to go through that again. So long live the Batch. I look forward to seeing future adventures with Omega, maybe a cameo from Batch members in future Star Wars programming. And that's the great thing about knowing that Star Wars has a future and that any of these characters can be resurrected in future animation or maybe even live action. Puff a pig, not in this series finale.
All right, that's going to do it for us. That's going to wrap up not just this episode of the Bad Batch After Show, but Bad Batch After Show, period. Rebel Force Radio will be back with more after shows. If there's a new Star Wars series on Disney Plus, with few exceptions, there's going to be more Rebel Force Radio after shows. Really appreciate all the great support, the super chats, the phone calls, the emails, all of it. Thank you. It's been a great ride. 3 years, Bad Batch After Show. But fear not, we'll be back this weekend. We will be live from Bristol, Connecticut for their big May the 4th celebration live podcast for those in attendance. But don't worry, no fan will be left behind, and we will be bringing you all the fun and all the excitement from Bristol sometime next week. I think that's everything. All right. Thanks, everybody. Love you all so much. We'll see you on the next one for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack. Puff a pig.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.